Hey, it's Katie Moran, and welcome to Artistic Spirit. Today I'm here with Arame Doy, passionate about getting people unstuck so they can live their most free and fulfilled lives. She's also a holistic coach, licensed RTT practitioner, certified hypnotherapist, and author of the book Courage to Heal, which is one of my personal favorites. Welcome.
Thank you, Queen Katie. I'm so happy and just honored to be here for the second time. I feel privileged, honestly, to be here and to be back here a second time. So thank you, Queen, so much. It's always a
Thank
fun
you.
time talking to you. So thank you.
Yes, I want to kick it off and get right into it. So, how can creatives like writers, artists, how can they overcome self-doubt to create and make an impact?
I think this is probably something that I've said before, and I think it's great, and I'm going to keep saying it again. And it starts with our own self-talk, like that inner conversation that we have with ourselves when things aren't going so great or when we aren't feeling so great. I think the first question we should be asking ourselves is, all right, this is true. Things are happening. Circumstances are here. Conditions are here that I am not able to control. But what am I telling myself about that? It goes with like the same thing. If you're feeling like you're having some self-doubt and you're not trusting yourself, ask yourself, what is my story around that? Pretty obvious. The story is around that is that I keep doubting myself. I have no self-confidence. I let people walk all over me. I don't trust my work. I can't put it out there. I have fear. All of those, it is packaged to make you not just feel that way, but keep feeling that way for a long time. First step is always observe your current inner conversation. Notice what you're telling yourself and take steps, small steps to start changing that conversation and turning it into something more empowering. Now, understand between where you are, where you have this constant, self-doubt and negative self-talk, and this part of like being super confident and super trusting of yourself, your ideas and your work, your creativity that you want to put out. There's a gap. There's an obvious gap between this point and then this point. So it's not very realistic to go from point A to point B overnight. There's a big gap there. So don't expect yourself to be here like overnight, but expect yourself to take small steps that will take you there. How do you start? Number one, soften your language around that. Instead of saying, oh, I don't trust my work, or my work is so stupid, it's so crazy, I am not creative. Instead of saying that, start by saying, oh, like, I can make it better. I would love for my work to feel good for me first. That's the thing. In order for your work to feel good to everyone, it has to feel good to you first. People think that I'm going to put it out into the world, no matter how it feels to me. I'm just going to force it out into the world and expect everybody to like it. If you don't like your work, how do you expect other people to like it? It has to come from a good place first for you. And then take little steps, like just soften your language. Oh, I would like to do something that feels better for me. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if my work was starting to feel more comfortable, more, like easier for myself? Just little things. And you do it little by little, step by step to get to that place. That takes consistency, that takes intentionality. Like, you have to be intentional about it. And when I say that, I mean get up in the morning, set your timer 2 minutes and be like, today, just for 2 minutes, I'm going to be intentional about my own self-talk, about my work, and how I want my work to feel for myself first, and how I want my work to be received by the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you start. Small little steps. And then also it's important that when you're saying certain words about your work to soften it, it has to feel true. It cannot feel like a lie or not aligned, because then you're just putting like a happy smiley face on something that doesn't feel true or honest to you. Like, let's say if you're saying, You're having doubt about your work and you're like, oh no, I love my work. It's amazing. It's fantastic. That's a lie. It doesn't feel true to you. How do you expect it to actually feel that way, as opposed to saying, yeah, it would be nice to start feeling better about my work, or, oh, I like this part of my work, but this part is awesome. That this could be better, but I like this side. Whether you're writing, whether you're designing, whether you're drawing, it doesn't really matter what your creative outlet is. Find little things about that you like, and emphasize those parts that you like. And the ones that you're not super crazy about, don't say, oh, I hate this, oh, I'm not good at this. Be like, oh, it could be better. And then what's the next question? What can I do to make this better? How can I improve on that? Just little things, soften it little by little. That's what's gonna get you from here to here, without doing that jump. Little step. That's what's gonna get you there. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, to me, that sounds kind of like if your ideas are seeds, that's like the water you need for them to grow. Um, when I think about this, I know some of the things you teach, and I would say, like, in terms of like making that soil fertile, things would be like meditation. What are some other tools people can use to kind of like fertilize their soil so that they can really sow those seeds and harvest them?
Yeah, definitely meditation. Like, it depends, if you haven't meditated ever, I would say take 5 minutes, set the timer, be intentional. If you are familiar with meditation, you can go longer. You can do 10, 15 minutes. It would be my recommendation. 15 minutes of meditation. I think the thing is, and then make the time. People will be like, well, I don't have time to meditate. The real is, you don't have time to not meditate. You want this, you want that, you have to put in the work. And then the first step is like sitting with yourself. You have to be able to sit with yourself for a bit. And then you can put the things that you want out in the world. One, meditation. Journaling. Journaling is always very effective because it allows you to take what's here and then put it on paper and make it more tangible for yourself. And then I would also say reminders, because we forget. We're human. It's very easy for us to forget, especially when we have a certain momentum going in a certain way. Like when we're used to talking so negatively to ourselves about ourselves, we're not gonna just switch it up overnight and be everything we say about ourselves is positive. It's not realistic. It's gonna take us time to get to that place. The number one thing that you would want to do is remind yourself. Have reminders around your place, your home, your apartment, to remind you to talk to yourself in a nicer way, to remind you to be kind to yourself about your work, your creative work, or your creative outlet, whatever it is. Have reminders to help you just be nicer and kinder to yourself. That will help you have more confidence and to build up that confidence within yourself and within your work. I promise you, we all need reminders. And the thing is, all of the things that we hear from coaches or from like spiritual guides or whoever, those are things that all of us, we already know. You most likely are not going to hear something that you already don't know. We know what we're supposed to do. We just don't do it. And the main thing is like having constant reminders, especially when it comes to like mindset and, doing the work to think differently, to think in a more empowering way. It takes reminders, like constant reminders. So I would say like have post-its on you in front of your computer when you're doing work, if you're doing whatever it is, have a post-it that reminds you of like a phrase that you would like to remember. Write something on your mirror when you're showering in the morning or brushing your teeth, something that you can look at on like a screensaver so you can see it constantly. And that's what it takes. You will need constant reminders because we're human. And the more you remind yourself, the more you are building new ways of thinking and sort of like building new pathways, neural pathways in your brain of thinking, which will, as those get stronger because you're reminding yourself and you're doing that work, the old neural pathways will not disappear, but they will get weaker because your focus, it's somewhere else that is more empowering.
As you say all of that, I keep seeing like this image of kind of like the soil and how this idea that like it's necessary that in the soil it's self-doubt, and in the soil it's criticism from other people, even if you're putting
Yeah.
yourself out online, hate from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all these things that we might not think as good things, but again, that's the dirt, that's the soil. And it's like when you pair that with like meditations and reminders, it's really something that allows for that plant to grow. And also that the soil is meant to be there. That's why it's on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's really like not something that we transcend past our self-doubts. It's that we use that to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's actually part of the process. And that when you water and all the techniques you use to like actually water your ideas, that's like
Mm-hmm.
how you protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And something I've been saying a lot recently is this idea that procrastination is really protecting, and that sometimes we think we're procrastinating, but what we're really doing is we're trying so hard to protect our ideas or our message or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that we're protecting. And we've really stopped that procrastination when we recognize and we gain the skills to cope with criticism and
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to defend our art, even in the face of dream killers
Yeah.
or criticism or even hate comments. And this idea, even our own self-doubt, and this idea that that protection, the more we are able to cope with these things and still protect our art,
Mm-hmm.
the less we will procrastinate. And I think that's something that this image of kind of like the water, the soil, and the
Mm-hmm.
seed is
Yeah.
just something that's I think is so powerful.
Yeah.
um but I'd love to even go deeper on your mission of helping people find freedom and fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just love to know, in achieving freedom and fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely a key aspect of your mission. How do you guide individuals in finding this in their lives?
Well, the thing is let's talk about freedom first. Freedom is innate. Like the minute we were born, we were free. It's not something that we have to earn. It's not something that someone else has to give us. We have it in us. It's innate. We were born free. Now, when in our mind we're thinking or believing that we're not free, it's something that we picked up at some point in our lives. It's not true. You have to understand that freedom is innate. And if you're not feeling free, you have to understand why that is. It's not because that you are not free. Now, when we're thinking about like freedom in like physical freedom, yeah, there are people who physically are not free. That's different from what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like here, that mental freedom. That is something that in terms of like controlling your mind, we have a certain level of freedom that only we can give to ourselves. We can receive a lot of stuff, a lot of information from the outside world, which we do all the time through the media, society, all around us. There's a lot of information. But just because you're getting that information and you're receiving it, doesn't mean it should control how you think and how you behave and how you act in the world. That's up to you. That freedom you have, and truly nobody can take it away from you without you giving it away on some level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an innate thing. Now, if you feeling that you're not free, why are you feeling that you're not free? Are you, like what is happening there mentally that is making you believe that you're not free? It could be like, well, I don't have enough money, so I don't have the freedom to go, buy this or go on vacation or do this thing. Okay, you may not be able to do it physically, and you won't be able to do it unless you change your mindset in the first place. You have to get to that place where that freedom is within you. It's not because you have money. It's not because you can travel here. It's not because you cannot leave the four corners of this room. But regardless of what's going outside into the world or in your immediate conditions, you are still free here. And if you're not feeling it, that means there's some work to be done there. And how do you do it? Again, it goes back to your own, like changing your perspective. Yeah, I may not be able to free physically to leave this corner of the earth, but my mind can leave this corner of the earth. My mind can travel. My mind can visualize things. My mind can see the most amazing things that I would allow it to think. That's the freedom. And until you are able to get to that place in your mind, how are you able to get to that place physically? It starts here. It always starts here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a muscle. It's practice. I take my own example. When it comes to visualization, I always thought, like, I can't visualize. This is the hardest thing in the world. Like, finding that freedom in my mind, well, I can allow my mind to just go crazy and see the most amazing things. Now my mind can go to the most like terrible places easily, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. And I think it's the case with most of us. It's like we've been conditioned at a really young age to see the worst things all the time, everywhere, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
the mind is trying to keep us safe. Now, when it comes to seeing all the best things in the world, that takes effort. That takes a little bit of practice. And that's what you want to do. And I feel like creatives are in the best place to do that. Creatives have so much imagination. They see things that, you know, maybe a lot of us don't see. And by the way, we all are creatives. It's just, again, building that muscle to a place where nothing really stops you except your own imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So when you allow your mind to go to the most like unimaginable places where you're completely free to roam around, like it's beautiful. Your mind can become either an oasis or it can become an inferno. You choose. Where do you spend your time the most? It doesn't mean that you're gonna think great things and amazing things all the time. No, that's not realistic. We're human. We also have a lot going on outside of that. But it's really about where you spend most of your time in your mind. And that also means, are you able, like being with you, yourself, and alone? It's kind of like being with me, myself, and I. With you and your mind, because that is the only thing that you're going to take with you wherever you go. Wherever you go, you're going with you and your mind. If that place is not comfortable and doesn't feel like home, it's going to be rough. So you have to sort of do the work constantly, consistently to practice making this mind of yours an oasis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And I think really this idea of being free in your mind is what helps you find freedom in other places. Like I did feel free in my mind even when I was hospitalized, and like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even able to go outside when I was
Mm-hmm.
hospitalized for my mental health. It was about a month,
Mm.
and I still had that freedom in my mind and that faith that it wouldn't be forever. And I think to back when I was in an abusive relationship, immediately when it became abusive, I was free in my mind, even though I had this
Mm.
violence in my life. I told people, and I went to them and I trusted them with what I was going through, and they came and they helped me get freedom from my boyfriend at the time. And I think about that, and I think a lot of the times people can feel so constricted by what they're going through. But again, like how you say, like you might not be able to change your circumstance, but you could change the way you talk to yourself, and how that's the freedom of the mind. And the freedom in the mind, that's just so important to have that freedom in the mind, and to know that that's really how you get freedom in your life. And even if
Mhm.
you don't have freedom in your life, you can find that freedom in the mind regardless. And that's what got me through when I didn't have actual freedom to like go outside or really do anything when I was hospitalized, and I couldn't even have a phone or look in the mirror. So it
Wow.
was it was like very strange experience, but I always think to that when I think about freedom, I think about how much freedom I have now and how
Mhm.
grateful I am that I didn't completely cave in on myself because I was still strong in my mind. And I thought to myself, like, even if I'm committed to a hospital for the rest of my life, like what can I still do and how can I still have an impact and how can I still help people? And I think it was really having that purpose behind it that allowed for me to get through that. And all the time I talk to people who are so resilient, who've been through so many things. And I think it really comes down to connecting with something deeper to know that what you're connected to is stronger than what you're going through and that there's a reason for you to get to the other side and that you're not the only one who is relying on you to get to the other side.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. And yeah, that piece of freedom makes all the difference in the world. And it's a state of mind first. And having that state of mind will help you move through certain, circumstances and conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. So coming back to freedom and this idea of creativity, how can people use techniques in RTT and hypnotherapy and use that to overcome creative blocks?
Mhm. What I like to do, the creative blocks, I think, you know, with any other blocks, I think it's about first identifying what they are, understanding like what is the source of it. Where did they come from? Is it from childhood? Usually it is, but it could doesn't always have to be that. It could be a self-doubt, it's like a lack of self-belief or any of that. Having those like limiting beliefs, understanding what they are, but also deciding. You have to make a decision. You have to be determined and decide that first, that's not going to stop me anymore. Make a decision and then move towards what you want. Like understand what they are. Okay, it could be that I have this limiting belief that I will never be, great at it or whatever that is. Okay, that's what it is. It came from childhood, or it came from, my boyfriend telling me all the time that I'm not good enough, whatever that may be. Once you understand that, now do the work to detach yourself from that. Like you understand it, but a lot of times people understand that, but they keep regurgitating it over and over and over. What does that do? It you get stuck in that space because you constantly doing that. Understand it once or twice, but then make the decision to move past it. You have to be able to move past it. And people will be like, well, it's not that easy, or it's easy for you to say you did not go through whatever I went through. We all been through some shit. Some, harder than others. True. But also at some point you have to make a decision and then line up with that decision. Make a decision that, yeah, I've been through these things, but I'm not going to allow that from, I'm not going to allow it from keeping me from doing what I want to do. It's not going to keep me from rising. It's not going to keep me from doing my art. It's not going to keep me from enjoying my art. Like a lot of time creatives, when they are into their work, they truly enjoy it. Whatever it is that you enjoy, make sure you spend most of your time there. You have to. That's what's going to move you away from that place. It's like people say, well, I love writing. I'm like, okay, how much time do you spend writing? 30 minutes a week? That's not enough. Every time you write, you feel free, you feel joyous, you feel excited. Well, spend more time doing that. That's what's going to move you from here to here. Whatever your art is, whatever your passion is, whatever your purpose is, whatever it is, you have to be intentional about spending a lot of time doing it. Now, yes, we have work, we have responsibilities, but do like a sort of like an audit of your time, basically. Look where you spend a lot of your time throughout the week, do that audit, and see where you could pull time out of that to do what you really enjoy doing. the more time you spend doing what you really enjoy doing, it fills you up from the inside. And then you have more sort of more strength or more confidence to deal with the outside world and the criticism that's going to come. The more you do the thing that you like to do, it builds up your confidence. The more you do and spend time doing your purpose, your craft, your art, it builds you up. And when something builds you up and builds up your confidence, it also makes you less susceptible to critics on, social media or whoever they are. You're able to allow that to just sort of slide down your back. But you have to spend more time doing what really matters to you, what lights you up.
That's so beautiful. And I'm doing The Artist Way by Julia Cameron, and one of the things she says is, this is a horrendous paraphrase, but there's freedom in the work, and that it's really like the work that you're avoiding that really will get you that feeling that you most wish for. And I just think that's so powerful. And I have this poem that says freedom's in self-discipline, and I have it on one of my Equanimity Boutique t-shirts. And for me, kind of like that self-discipline is like doing creative sprints in like my Creativeville Discord, and things like that, challenges. I have a Facebook group where we do challenges monthly, and it just reminds me of like sometimes we aren't willing to face all of these things and confront them for ourselves, but we feel like when we're in community, we're stronger, and again, we're connected to something bigger than us, and that what we're connected to is bigger than, again, what we fear.
Absolutely. I love that. And there's always power in numbers. But I also, do believe that like the inner work is irreplaceable, and doing something that feels good will never steer you wrong. I don't believe that doing something that feels good, well, unless it's drugs, there are some there are some consequences to that. But if it's something that serves you and that gives you the best high, and you don't even have to be on drugs to be high, like that can't be a bad thing. And only good things will come from that. Like doing your art, like spending time doing what lights you up, only great things can come out of that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Also, this idea that sometimes it's like we can measure how much growth and transformation we have by the amount of courage we have in doing something, and that we can't get transformation without enormous courage, and that like things like taking drugs might not take courage, but maybe going back to a manuscript and sitting with it for 10 minutes after you haven't touched it in 10 years,
Right.
which I know some of my followers have done before. People in my audience, they do share, sometimes it's like 20 years since they've touched the art. And I just want to remind everyone it's never too late, and that it might seem like the amount of courage it requires is more than what you are capable of. And I just want to remind you to connect with community. If you have a coach, connect with your coach. If you have meditations you could do the meditations, and just know that the more you connect with the energy that extends itself, whether that be community or mentors or a coach or your faith, it's so important that you connect with something bigger so that you can feel like you do have the courage, and that you do step into that, and you can join a community where, say, you're doing a creative sprint and you commit to touching your art for 10 minutes a day for 90 days, and that can make all the difference in the world, because again, you're not in it alone. And I think so much of the time, and this is where I want to go deeper into this conversation and some of these topics, but some of the time we feel like we're having these blockages for our creative work because it's not just limiting beliefs underneath it, but it could be trauma. And this idea that sometimes we don't feel free to create, and we don't feel fulfillment yet because we're blocked by our trauma and that we feel like we can't overcome it or we're not strong enough to overcome it. And I just want you to talk to that person who is having all of these blocks because of what they've been through and they feel unworthy of becoming the person who can impact people through their art because of what they've experienced in their past and how they are still letting it define who they are today and tomorrow. And how can they transform it so that it doesn't define who they are today and tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I would say that who you were during the time when you were being told those things is no longer who you are today. And it serves us to remember that. Like the things that I've heard as a child, or that were done they're no longer who I am today. I was a child then. I am an adult now. The things that happened then, there's no chance they would happen today. None. I am not a child anymore. I am an adult now, and I can care for myself. I can do things for myself today that I was not able to do. I can protect myself. I can care for myself. I can speak to myself nicely. I can be kind to myself. I can build up my own confidence. So, like as a child, you're a child, or as an adult who hasn't done a lot of work yet, yes, you haven't. But understand that now you are able to. Why? Because first you have the self-awareness. Now oh, there are some things that I wasn't given, as a child. And now I can give to myself because now you are empowered. Now I have the power. Let's say, you feel like, well, I've gone through this trauma, and ask yourself, well, okay, how do you want to feel now? Like what happened that made you feel a certain way as a child? Let's say, I don't know what the trauma was, but it made you feel unworthy, or it made you feel not good enough or not enough. Now then ask yourself, how can I make myself feel worthy? How can I make myself feel good enough? How can I make myself feel enough? How can I make myself feel confident? One, no longer expecting it to come from other people to make you feel that way, but know that you can make yourself feel that way. That's super empowering. And also know that like that child was a child. Yeah, they did not get those things. But now as an adult, I can get those things. I can give those things to myself. I can empower myself and build my own self-esteem up, because it's all about building yourself up. Yeah, people sort of brought you down and put you down. Now it's up to you to rise and stand up and be like, no, I'm going to build myself up. And how am I going to do it? I'm going to talk to myself in a nicer way. I'm going to be kinder to myself. I'm going to move my self-talk from being negative to being more positive. I'm going to do that for myself. I owe it to myself. First of all, I am worthy. I was born worthy, and I will always be worthy. I am worthy is not a lie. It's the truth. The difference is whether you're feeling it or you're not feeling it, but you are worthy. If you're not feeling it, then it's up to you to go to a place from not feeling it and not believing it to a place of feeling it and believing it. That's your work. How do you do it? You have to start telling yourself that over and over and over until it becomes a belief. And that's what a belief is. It's something that you tell yourself over and over, and it becomes a belief. You tell a lie long enough, guess what? It becomes a belief. You tell truth or whatever your perception of whatever it is, you tell it long enough, you start to believe it. So if we can tell ourselves that we're not worthy, and you believe it, why not tell yourself, I'm worthy, and you start believing it? That's what Marissa Peer calls tell yourself a better lie. We tell ourselves stories all the time. Maybe it's now time to tell ourselves more empowering stories.
Yeah, actually, you reframed my question for me with the first three words you said. You said who you were, and I was like, whoa, like this idea that it's like we can have all these negative stories as long as we acknowledge that that's who we were and that we're not taking that into who we are.
Nope, 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 nope. And you get to choose. You absolutely get to choose. And it's like, it's part of self-knowledge. It's part of understanding that you are not that person anymore. And even the person that you are today is not going to be the person that you are going to be tomorrow. It's not your future self, but you still get to create that person. You still get to create that person. One of my personal conversations with myself is I usually ask myself, what would my best self do? Like the best version of myself. What would they do now? Like, let's say I'm going through something and it's not quite working out, or my feelings about it are really not really helping me in the moment. My favorite question to ask would be, what would my better self or my inner being do in this situation? Wait for that answer and go for that answer. And the answer always comes, always comes, always. And the answer will be something that leaves no doubt. It's not going to be like maybe this, maybe that, but it's going to be like, boop. And you know it. But we oftentimes, first, we don't ask that question. Or when we do, you get the answer, but you still go the other way. But it's okay. That's how we learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love coming back to that exercise you started us off with is this like 2 minutes in your day, just telling yourself you're going to be intentional about that day. And I just want to go back to that image of kind of like this plant and having the seed be your ideas for creatives, and the soil being all that messy stuff, the self-doubt, and also like what you do to fertilize it is your reminders, your meditations, and then the water being the way you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself. And then for me, something we didn't touch on, but I think this is so important, is the sun is the impact you have. And that's the communities you're a part of. It's the people you help. It's the people you touch with your art. And this idea that it's all essential to growth and that you can't cut off any one part of it. You can't cut off the doubts. You can't cut off your impact. You can't cut off community. All of it is a part of it to grow these ideas and to grow your art and to really grow into who you want to be and who you want to become, that free and fulfilled person. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on today. And I want to finish this episode just with you saying what you're going to be up to next and a little bit about your upcoming projects.
Thank you again for having me. It's always so much fun talking to you. I just love every second of it. Yeah, so right now I'm working on a meditation app. It's more like a visualization app, and it's really about active meditation. And the reason why I want to do something like that, it's also using my own personal experience, thinking I can't visualize, and I'm realizing that it's not true. Like you not only can we visualize, but it's just like about practicing. And I feel like having something that will guide you through really using your mind, using your creativity to see things that you thought were not even there, but see it to a place where it feels real, it feels believable, and then you feel it. It's really about the feeling. You get to yourself to a place where you can feel things viscerally that are good things. That's how you practice using your imagination, using your creativity to get to a place that feels good to you, that will also feel good when you put your work out into the world. And that's the whole point of me like wanting to do something like that. And yeah, it's going to be called Feel Center, and it's really going to be a place where people would come and practice feeling, not only practice feeling, but practice feeling things that serves them. We all have practice feeling things that don't serve us. It comes quite easy to us, but I feel like it's now time for us to practice a different muscle of feeling things that feel good and that will serve us to be more creative, to use our imagination to sort of move us forward and just like, go out into the world and be our best selves.
I love that so much. And Aram is going to give everyone a gift of a meditation for creatives.
I'm excited for you
So
guys to try it. Yeah.
check the link in the description and show notes. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you, Queen. I love you. It's been awesome and amazing talking to you. Thank you.
Love you so much too.
Love you.